Now, as we know, the end of ancient Greece largely coincided with the rise of the Macedonian kingdom under their new king, Philip II, father of Alexander the Great. So I'm going to try to walk you through how Philip II turned a chaotic kingdom into one worthy of conquering ancient Greece. Now, Macedonia is directly north of ancient Greece, and unlike Greece, who has multiple city-states with different people in charge and different identities, Macedonia is all one people ruled by one king. But believe me when I say the ancient Greeks did not fear Macedonia. It was largely chaos. For centuries, only weak kings ruled, and they had multiple wives, which was very confusing to the ancient Greeks because that meant that succession was a nightmare. Whenever a new king had to be appointed, say every 30-40 years, there would be absolute chaos. Factions, infighting, war, illegitimate children, and it was a military aristocracy, meaning whoever was strongest ruled, and politics was largely left unstable. Macedonia never amounted to much conquering because they couldn't even keep their own borders in control. That was until 359 BCE when Philip II was appointed king. Now, Philip's appointment was different because he took over the throne from his brother, King Perdiccas, who died in battle. Philip did not kill him, he died in battle. And though Perdiccas did have a son, he was far too young to rule, and so Philip took the slot. And Philip wants to build an empire. Now, during this point in time, all of Greece is greatly weakened by the Peloponnesian War. That was the war between Athens and Sparta for superiority of Greece. And though Sparta was the winner of the war, all of Greece is weakened. In fact, the strongest city-state right now is Thebes, right there in the middle. And perhaps at first, unluckily for Philip II, he was a hostage in Thebes for years during his youth, meaning that he was uniquely familiar with Theban military tactics, the now #1 military in ancient Greece, and also just a Greek state of mind, Greek values. When he became king, he made sure to construct this Macedonian chaos with Greek values and a Theban military. Even went so far as to hire Aristotle, the philosopher, to tutor his young son at the time, Alexander the Great. Yes, Alexander the Great was a Macedonian fighter, but he was also a Greek thinker. Aristotle made sure of that. Philip II is famous for his military model. The Macedonian army was the second professional army in all of Western antiquity. The first was the Spartans. Philip II wanted professionally trained and paid soldiers that would practice year-round. He wanted a professional army. But in order to do that, he needed funds. Philip's first conquering as king was their northern neighbor, Thrace. He marched through it, bribed, ambushed, and later seized only a little bit of the territory, Amphipolis, which after taken over he named Philippolis after himself. But in that city was a plethora of gold and silver mines, and so if he seized them, he would be rich. The problem was that those mines were owned and operated by Athens. He did raid the mines and take the money and sold it. He didn't care. But this is the first time that Macedonia is on Greece's radar, specifically Athens, because that's who he robbed. But moving on, Philip can finally fund his army. He creates a new phalanx formation, which is 16 men across and 16 men deep. Huge compared to the Greek model. 256 men to be exact. They carried 20-foot-long spears compared to the usual Greek 7, meaning that the first 5 rows of men had a spear compared to the Greek 1 row. He also provided far lighter armor so that way it would be easier to maneuver. He installed a companion cavalry who were also professionally trained and paid and gave them spears that actually worked. Horses didn't really work in ancient Greece, especially in warfare, because it was a very mountainous region, and honestly, Greek warfare didn't fit them in. Philip corrected that very quickly. In the past, Macedonia's primary enemy was the kingdom of Illyria, so to test out his new military, Philip marched into Illyria and absolutely decimated them. And with this confidence boost, he aims to invade Greece. The first city he goes for is Thessaly, which is the one closest to them. And though Thessaly is not the biggest player in all of Greece, they are a member of the Amphictyonic League. This league maintains and defends another Greek city, Delphi, in the heart of Greece. Most Greek cities were members of this league because Delphi was important to all of them. It was seen as the heart of Greece. It held the oracles, the temple of Apollo. Everyone sought advice from Delphi. The problem now is Thebes is the head of this league. They're the powerhouse now. Sparta and Athens used to be, and with this newfound power, Thebes is really starting to use this league as a way to carry out personal vendettas and just petty instances. And Thebes used the power of the league to impose hefty fines on the Phocians, people up north that they didn't really like. In response to this, the Phocians invade Delphi. They steal and melt down sacred treasures that they stole from the Temple of Apollo to fund mercenaries for the war that they inevitably just started, the Third Sacred War. Athens and Sparta, however, decide that they're not going to fight on the League's side in this war. They're that disgruntled with Thebes that they join the Phocians' side. And this is all going down while Philip is secretly, quietly invading Thessaly. Remember that city-state right up here? And when Thessaly starts hearing rumors that Philip is slowly conquering all of these small towns around him, Philip uses the Third Sacred War to his advantage and says, hey, I'm just here to help out. I'm just here to help you, Thessaly, Thebes, and the League, defeat Sparta and Athens because I'm really worried that those two city-states are getting out of control and I'm just here to protect my own land. And Thessaly believes him. He sends some men to help on the front lines, and Sparta and Athens definitely don't like that. And during this whole time, he's still secretly capturing cities. At this point, cities are welcoming him. They think he's a great guy. But eventually, Philip takes it too far and sacks the city of Olynthus right there. Olynthus was not a quiet capture, and it really revealed his true motives. Now, luckily, Philip wins the Third Sacred War for Thebes, Thessaly, and the League during this exact time. So once he wins the war, he starts to back away. Even though he backs away, Athens blocks Thermopylae, which is essentially the only passageway throughout Greece. So Philip heads back up north. And during this time, a major debate is breaking out in all of Athens. Particularly Demosthenes, an Athenian orator, really spoke out during this time, saying that Philip was after all of Greece. He's not just protecting his own land, he is out here to expand. There's a lot of debate about this because not many people want to poke the Macedonian bear, especially while all of these cities are rebuilding. And Philip during this time is very good at manipulating Athenian democracy because he knows that the Athenians are a bickering people. Philip played Athens on a cycle where he would capture a Greek town, Demosthenes would call for him to be stopped. And Philip would send word, a message, apologizing, saying that it was a mistake that the town was captured. Athens would send emissaries to check it out, and Philip would bribe them. And then Philip would report to Athens that the emissaries were bribed and so corrupt. And Athens would spend all of this time and money on trials, hearings, courts, evidence, until Philip did it again. But Demosthenes knows what Philip is doing, and so he calls out to ally with Byzantium, a Thracian city. Remember that Thrace was the territory north of Macedonia that Philip took Amphipolis from but didn't conquer everything. Byzantium is on the far left, over there. Byzantium also holds most of the grain supply for Athens. Almost immediately after it's announced that Athens is protecting Byzantium extra carefully, Philip lays siege and conquers all of Thrace. Philip said it is officially time for war, and he couldn't be more pleased. Right after the war begins, there's actually a very brief period of peace called the Peace of Philocrates. Philocrates was an ambassador for Athens, sent by Demosthenes to talk to Philip II, asking for this peace. Demosthenes quickly realized that Athens could not handle this all alone, and so he wanted time to rally together all of Greece. And he did. Everyone joined the League with the exception of Sparta. However, the peace ended when Philip finally made it through Thermopylae. He figured out a way through the passage, and that meant nothing was going to stop him. When Philip finally breaks through Thermopylae in 338 BC, the Battle of Chaeronea takes place. Now, number-wise, the battle is pretty even. Greece, primarily Athens and Thebes, has 35,000 troops compared to Philip's 32,000, but remember that Philip's includes the cavalry. The battle is fairly long, and sources say hotly contested until Philip's phalanx began to withdraw. Now, unbeknownst to the Greek forces, this withdrawal was pre-arranged. That's never really been done before because no phalanx, especially one of Macedonian size, was never so well disciplined and maneuverable. So the Greek forces push forward, thinking that they're winning and just thinning out Macedonian forces. As Greek forces are clumsily closing in, Macedonian cavalry runs right through the gap. The cavalry runs through the gaps and absolutely slaughter the Greek forces. It's also worth noting that at the head and command of it was Alexander, Philip's son, who was only 18 years old at the time. The surviving Greeks run away, surrender, and Philip officially conquers all of Greece when, just a little while later, they agree to be led by him. But remember that Philip did not conquer all of Greece just to have Greece. That was not his end goal. His end goal was across the sea in Persia. Philip did not cross the sea to Persia, and he would not conquer the Persian Empire. But he did set up the perfect army of Greek and Macedonian to do so.